Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So welcome to the In Vivo Quest Tour 2020-2021. Welcome to everyone. There's more than 100 people registered to this event. Not there yet, but people are getting connected. So very happy to host you to this great event. First, who am I? I'm Marie-Cécile Damave. I will be the moderator for today's session. So we have 1 hour in front of us. So I am an agronomist. I'm responsible for innovations and international affairs in a French think tank that is based in Paris and that is called Agridées, meaning Ideas for Agriculture. So today, just a few words about In Vivo Quest to start with. This is the first conference of the first session of this new Quest tour of this year. It's the 4th edition actually of In Vivo Quest, which is actually a challenge, an innovation challenge that aims to detect the most promising project holders and startups across the world to address the challenges of today that are mainly climate change, of course, and transitions in farming and in food consumption. So this year's In Vivo Quest will focus mainly on Europe, and Europe being a huge region, then the challenge will be segmented into 7 sessions. This is the first conference of the first session, and this session focuses on Northern Europe. So today we will hear 2 great speakers. As you can see on your screens right now, we have Peter Annas. He's the director for the group Lantmännen, a big Swedish agricultural cooperative. He's the director for research, development and innovation in this group. Hello, Peter.
Hello, everyone.
We have Didier Robert as well. He's the CEO of Smag by Bioline by In Vivo. Hello, Didier. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
So with Didier and Peter, we will have actually a great vision of what are the various strategies, visions, and tactics actually to tackle climate change and farming transition and food transition across across Europe, and more specifically for this region of Northern European countries. So climate change again is impacting agriculture a lot already, as we all know. It's 33 degrees today in Paris. I hear it's 20 degrees in Malmö today in Sweden. So we all know what global warming means. Climate change is already impacting agriculture, and it will impact it further in the next years. We'll have more and more extreme weather conditions, droughts, floods, etc. So water access will be key. Of course, soil fertility is another issue. New issues for plant and animal health with different pests, for example, different diseases, etc. So how to tackle all that? Biodiversity being affected, of course. And so how do stakeholders in agriculture in Nordic countries are addressing these great challenges? Peter, the floor is yours to present Lantmännen in this first period of time for this 1 hour great discussion. And sorry, I forgot something very important for the great audience that we have right now. We want this event to be as interactive as possible, and I see you are already 46 participants to this event. So please ask your questions using the button below on your screen, Q&As. Please use it, type in your questions. We'll try to answer them as they come along. Be kind to us, asking short questions, and then we'll address them as they come. So Peter, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Marie-Cécile, and thanks a lot for the invitation. I'm honored to be a speaker here today, and I hope we will have a nice hour together here. So, I will just present in brief Lantmännen. You said Lantmännen is an agricultural cooperative, and that's true. I work for Lantmännen since more than 20 years, and we are owned by the Swedish farmers, you could say, 20,000 farmers, and we are the Northern Europe's leading player in agriculture, machinery, bioenergy, and food. We have approximately 10,000 employees and operations in some 20 countries, and an annual turnover of Swedish krona 50 billion. That's approximately almost 5 billion euro. And our board is actually represented by farmers as well. And the chairman of the board, Per Lindahl, he's actually a farmer in poultry. And then you see on the slide here as well our CEO and group president, Per-Olof Nyman. So that's who we are. That's our base, the Northern Europe. So next, please. But you will actually see and find that we are, as I said, operative. We have operations in more than 20 countries in the light green areas here. And you will find our products all over the globe, actually. So next, please. And our model, we are the agriculture co-op and owned by the Swedish farmers, and we have a clear mission. We say that we would like to make the farming thrive, and we take really the responsibility in the whole value chain from field to fork. And we try to do our utmost all the time to be a very good business partner for the farmers, for the agriculture. And we would like to create value from the farmland as we are active in the whole grain value chain, and we invest a lot into research and innovation, and also of course into sustainable production. Next, please. So in our strategy, we are along the whole value chain from field to fork, and in our strategy, the farmers and the farm itself, it's always in the center. We provide a lot of products and services for the farmers, and we create value from the grain. And we are then, we have an impact throughout the whole value chain here, and we have a lot of focus when it comes to the services and products. We are active in plant breeding to really secure that we have the ever best varieties available, that they should be robust and tackle all the local conditions when it comes to the climate change, for instance. And then we provide high quality seed, of course, to the home market here, and a lot of all the different agri supplies, inputs like fertilizers, crop protection, etc. Here in the Swedish market as well, we are active reselling Agco's assortment when it comes to agricultural machineries. And then we are also active in and a reseller for Volvo construction equipment in Sweden and some other countries around the Baltic Sea. Then we support the farmers with financing, advice, and risk management tools as well. And then, of course, we have further along in the value chain, we collect or we purchase a lot of the Swedish grain and oilseeds directly from the farmers, and we use a lot of that into our feed production, of course, but also to our production of in the milling or in the bakery, etc. We do a lot of different products when it comes to bakery, everything from hamburger and sausage buns to fresh bread and etc. etc. We even have pasta production here. But we also do a lot of trading with the cereals all over the globe, oats and malting barley, etc. And then we produce a lot of starch and spirits. When it comes to spirits, we have actually one of the largest vodka brands, imported vodka brands to US, for instance. We produce bioethanol from out of grain, one of the largest producer of bioethanol in the Nordics. or in the Northern Europe, I should say. And we are active in malting as well, and feed production, as I said. So to remember, active in the whole value chain from field to fork. Please take next. And then, of course, one of the good things being in a cooperative, that is actually the business model as such. I mean, our owners, they are members and also business partners. And we reinvest this into the Swedish farming. And it works like this, that all the operating profit from the agriculture operations is distributed as a refund and supplementary payment to the members, our business partners. That goes back 100% from our all agriculture operations. But when it comes to the industrial operations, we about 40% goes back as contribution dividend and contribution issues to the members. And then the rest, the 60%, that's reinvested into the business as well as into the R&D. Next, please.
Excuse me, Peter. I think this number is really key. 60% reinvested in research and development is really a high number.
Yeah. It's not only R&D, to be honest. It's also investment into the business operations. But we invest a lot into the R&D because that's needed for the future, for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. And here you can actually see the figures that we do when it comes to R&D. Annually, we invest like 250 to 350 million Swedish kronor. And we even have our own Lantmännen Research Foundation where external scientists and researchers from universities and colleges and so on can actually apply for fundings. And in that foundation, we have both scientists, white collars from Lantmännen as myself, as well as farmers sitting there evaluating the different applications and so on. And then, of course, we do a lot by ourselves as well, and in collaboration with a lot of different partners and so on. And some of the examples of current research projects is actually a lot. We do a lot within improved precision farming and then oat breeding, for instance. So that's a lot of examples there.
So Peter, sorry to interrupt. We have two questions for you. The first one is how Lantmännen survive against the last 20 years of global free trade economy. And the second one is how has the rule 60-40 been decided? Did this rule change over the years?
Yeah, no, let's take that was two tricky questions. The last question, 60-40, that is actually something that our owners have decided upon. So that is, we have a special setup for the owners with 20 districts, and they elect to the annual meeting, and then that is actually where they decide. And then, of course, in the board of directors later on, they take that type of decision. And it has been like this for many years, actually. Lantmännen is a very long-term sighted co-op, and therefore, and we need to invest. It's a pretty small market, Sweden, if you compare that to the French market, for instance. And therefore, it's important to reinvest so much back again. Then the question about the free trade. It has happened a lot, of course, in the Swedish agriculture and food industry during the last 20 years. And in the past, Lantmännen were actually a lot of small co-ops, and we merged Lantmännen into one co-op 2001. And since then, we have had a strategy focusing on the core and the farming and being in the grain value chain. And I think that we have succeeded to be so strong as we are the market leader in this segment in Sweden. And I think that is a success of the strategy and the long-term view on the business.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see, next slide. That is the last one on this chapter here, but this is just to show you that we take and we really live the responsibility. It's on the top of the head of all the employees, where we have our code of conduct, for instance, that applies to all the employees. We have supplier code of conduct that applies to all the suppliers, and we have a separate contract process for that. Same goes for distributor code of conduct and so on. And we consistent follow-up by management, and you can read about it in our annual and sustainable report. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. There's one more question, and then we need to give the floor to Didier. A third question is, do you have experience in growing potato seeds, mini tubers with aeroponic techniques? And do you see opportunities in Northern Europe?
We had a separate activity in the past where we were actually active in potato seeds production. As we have far up north in Sweden, it's a good condition due to the fact of phytosanitary. There is not a lot of fungus and so on up there. But that was actually decided some years ago, or many years ago, to step out of that business. And then we have had, we have still some potato business, and that is within plant breeding, but all those activities nowadays is done in Netherlands, where we have a good plant breeding activity, and we work closely together with a company called Agridées when it comes to marketing and sales of the varieties as such.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Didier, please tell us a little more about InVivo and Bioline, and who you are, how big your union of cooperatives is, and what are the main sectors where you're strong, and where your priorities are.
Yes, it's pretty much the same size of Lantmännen. Sorry if I miss tell the word. It's 5 billion euros of revenue. We are indeed a union of cooperatives, which means that we gather more than 200 cooperatives, 201 to be precise. All those cooperatives, they represent 300,000 farmers all over France, which is something close to 3 or 4 farmers in France. And we also operate some businesses that I will quickly and briefly describe the businesses that we operate, but it represents a little bit more than 5,000 employees located in 19 countries, not only in France, but we also have businesses in the United States, in Spain, in Brazil, and in other countries. One thing also to know is that we have this very large spectrum of operation that I will describe, but of course, our main goal is to help the cooperatives to operate their own business. And as you know, there are three pillars in the business model of a cooperative. The first one is to gather farmers to buy some intrants and to have the best price and the best quality, and that's important. Then to work all together. So that's also about the technicians and the people supporting the transformation of the practices of agriculture, and also, of course, to sell at the higher revenue possible for the farmer. So that's the main goal of InVivo, is to support the operations of all these cooperatives. And also, of course, we'll talk about innovation, as it is part of our role also, is to invest in and to help the farmers and the cooperative to transform their operations. Yes, next slide. So yes, just to say that we operate this very large spectrum of what agriculture needs to operate, from the seeds business and also the practice with more and more digital solutions for that. Of course, the fertilization and protection of crops, everything now related to how we can improve the practice. We can select in a better way the seeds. We can sometimes also innovate in the seed business or seed selection, as well in crop protection and fertilization, in order to respect the biodiversity and to tackle the global warming, as well as everything that can be considered as an aggression to nature. And of course, there is the market business on the other side. We are a very large organization, well known globally for trade of wheat, for instance. We export a lot and we structure part of the French exportation. We have our logistic and transportation department for that, as well as the trading department. But also, I will quickly describe it, but we are entering into the retail industry a little bit, supporting again the business of the COP in this area. Next. Yes, or next also. Yeah, just to describe a little bit, at InVivo, we have two different levels of operation. The first one is activities which are considered as the union activities. I will not describe the fiscal and how it works as you did, Peter, in the right way, but that's almost the same. There is the revenue structure, which is important to consider. At the union level, we operate the supply. So we buy fertilization, we buy chemical products. We operate the trading. So as I told you, we sell crops. And also the logistic and transportation, we operate some ports and different kind of infrastructure for many cooperatives and farmers. And we, of course, I forget to tell that, but we also belong to farmers, and we belong to cooperatives and to farmers. That's our main shareholders. We have three business divisions, one dedicated to agriculture, another one dedicated to retail, and one which is a little bit specific, Peter, and that as we are in France, we also operate a wine business. That's almost mandatory when you are in France. A quick brief description of all these divisions. Yeah, next. So just to talk about Bioline. So Bioline is the full spectrum of what can be done in order to support the agriculture. Seeds, we have a large and very well-known business of seed multiplication, but also selection, validation. And more and more we operate around the seeds, for instance, for the coating and this kind of things. We have invested into this kind of business, which are also more and more important when we think about biodiversity and this kind of thing. The coating is one of the solutions. We also have exported this business in Eastern Europe, in Italy, in Brazil. We have now a good business in seeds production in this country. We also have developed a business in biocontrol. I will also just quickly describe a little bit about it. And we also have developed the digital and the agronomic capabilities in order to support the technicians from the cooperative and the cooperatives with some expertise. Part of the expertise, just to take an example, is provided by AgroSolutions. AgroSolutions is one of the leading consulting group in France. They are well known because they have, for instance, they work on the carbon agronomic modelization, and they cooperate with during the COP21 to create one methodology that had been approved in Japan for the, I don't remember which COP, but it was a little bit after that. The other one, please, yeah. So wine, I will go quickly. That's just part of the brand that we have, or the cooperative we work with have, or we deal with, because when we consider the wine, is that we operate with French cooperatives, the production, not really the production, but at least the infrastructure of the production, I can say. Plus also we sell the wine on the global markets, and we have contracts, of course, with the French cooperative, but also with other companies. And so we export, and that's the role of InVivo Wine, is to open new markets, to develop, to boost some French brands in the global market. So it represents 9 cooperatives, as I told you, and 12 distributors located all around the world. And so some from South America to United States and many other countries. And the last one, retail. So retail, we are well known because in France we are the first garden centers. We have more than 1,400 stores with 2 brand names. The first one is Damave, the second one is Jardiland. And more, which is interesting, is that we also have developed some corners for food, and we have developed new food concepts in order to try to find new market for our farmers and for the farmers working with the cooperative. For instance, we recently bought a new concept of organic stores, which name is Bio & Co. Yes, and next. Just to finish, just two things about things that we try to do and what we try to develop. Talking about innovation, we have launched during the last 5 years 5 new businesses. The first one is Smag. Smag provides some digital solutions that are in the pocket of the farmers and the co-op experts on a daily basis to help them to optimize what they do, but also to collect data for the traceability of the products, and that will also help to connect the consumer more and more. BAP is a precision farming business for fertilization modulation, sorry. Bioline, it's also a new business dedicated to the biocontrol development, macroorganism, and with a very, very good increase of business for this. We operate in many countries. Recently, we opened new businesses in Spain, but also United States for this kind of business. Farm Leader is also a very interesting initiative. It's a living lab platform on the network, but probably I will not tell too much of Farm Leader because I think that Carol will pitch about Farm Leader tomorrow. That's it.
Yeah. Tomorrow we'll have a second conference for this session, and Carol Roca will be explaining what Farm Leader is.
Okay, great, because Carol will do that much more better than me. And Aladdin.farm, it's a new e-commerce platform. The main originality of this platform is that it's not an e-business platform like Amazon, etc., but it's a platform which is in the hand of each cooperative, local cooperatives, which can adapt the marketing mix to the local needs of the farmer. So that's something like a Amazon-like platform for agriculture, but with the local flavor of what is required in each local context, so it's adapted by the cooperative, and also it helps to promote the good mix of products when we like, for instance, to develop biodiversity, etc. So that's also a tool to try to implement, to deploy new solutions in the field. And last slide, just to talk quickly about responsibility. We are engaged into a new transformation. In France, we have a new status which is called Société à mission, which is something like corporation with a mission. Probably we can translate it that way, which will be a new status for company willing to have a long-term perspective. And for sure, cooperatives and the union of cooperatives is a long-term business, is a long-term structure. So the idea is that not only to consider the financial figures and the financial reports, but to put above these financial reports a vision, a long-term perspective, and whatever with the financial happen and how we can decide to invest, to disinfect, etc. The idea is to keep in mind that we are engaged for a long term as player, and that's particularly dedicated to agriculture. So the idea for InVivo is to be one of the first company group in France to benefit from this status, and that's for us very, very important to transform ourselves. Also, considering the governance and this kind of thing, the idea is to make a new deal. When we talk about what is a cooperative, I don't know in Sweden, but the status of the cooperative is pretty old in France. So the idea is to renew it, and that's also a challenge for us.
Thank you very much, Didier. So I see there's a lot in common between Lantmännen and InVivo, really. So you both operate across the chain, from production to trade, to processing, to retail. I see responsibility is a key word for both of you. Innovation is a key word as well. You're both exploring innovation and R&D. Of course, sustainability. Who is not sustainable today? but I see also some differences, garden and wine for in vivo, and maybe this fossil-free biofuel and machinery for Lantmännen. These are complementary activities that you have. And of course, what makes you really comparable is that you are cooperatives, so farmers are in the core center of your activities, and they are your owners, and these are the people for who you work. Really, your business is directed to the farmer, to the benefit of the farmers. So Didier, while you were speaking, you got 3 different questions, but we need to be really quick answering them, please, because we need to switch to the next question. So there are 2 questions that are really in the same direction to you, Didier. How do you handle biodiversity, protecting biodiversity, and also moving to organic products while selling crop protection products? So this is one question. And the other one, does In Vivo also work with food processors like the Danones and Nestlé's to improve the grains for cereals based foodstuff in terms of quality?
Okay, that's if I have 1 hour, that will not be enough.
Just
to
1 minute
to answer the question. So okay, yes, of course we sell and we'll continue to sell crop protection, because we need crop protection, but we need to invest to have at least the best of what the technology can provide in terms of crop protection, and also to prepare the future for the adoption of new technology that can replace the current crop protection that we have. That's why we have decided to invest, and we bought from Syngenta part of its business, and we invested a lot in biocontrol. That's really something which is really important. So that's part of the solution. That's why also we invest in technology. I will talk a little bit about BAP, but that's a way also to find new solutions. So we try to invest, and that's a challenge for us. And the second question was about the
how do you work with big major food companies?
So usually it's more the cooperatives which have some contract with the buyers like Danone, like some retailers, etc. How we deal on this question at In Vivo is that we work on for instance, on the standards of production. Just one example, we worked with Mondelez. So Mondelez, the large company with very famous brand name. They have created their standard for to elevate the quality, to respect the biodiversity, etc., etc. So that's a methodology to progress and to support the transformation of agriculture. We have created with and for Mondelez the methodology for France, which also has promoted the same method in other countries. And we try to operate, to convince the farmers, to convince the cooperative to operate, and to help them to operate their production for Mondelez in a better way. So that's part of the answer that I can provide.
Okay, and then I have 2 more questions, and I think you can just keep they are for you both actually, but just keep them in mind while going to the next question. My next question is, what are your visions of the future of farming, and what solutions are your cooperatives working on for addressing this big challenge of climate change? And one of these questions was, what are the three top challenges related to climate change for farmers in Europe in the coming years? And the other question from the public was, are you taking decisions that you think will not pay before 2040? So how long-term are your decisions and visions and actions?
I keep in mind the questions, but just for the last one, because that's important, particularly as you can see in the slide. That's why also we like to qualify ourselves, and why also we change the status is that, of course, we are engaged in solutions, and you know that the common thing is to say that the field belong to farmer, but also the farmer belong to the field. And the idea is that we are all here for a long term, which is one of the main difference when we consider agriculture to other industries. So we must consider, and there is no other way to do, we must consider, and we have to consider a long-term perspective. So that's why we have this plan that I will talk about in 2030, and that will be that I will talk about that.
Okay, Peter. Let's. The floor is yours for explaining the commitments of Lantmännen for the next decades.
Yeah, I will do so. Thanks a lot. I'm back again here, and I will just continue where Didier stopped there with the long-term investments and so on. And I fully agree to that. We really put a lot of focus into R&D for the farming of the future, but also and beyond 2040 and so on. We have to be. And one example, just for your understanding, when you talk about plant breeding, for instance, and you would like to have the ever best red clover variety that works fine to collect the carbon and so on, then that takes 23 years from the first cross until you actually reach the marketplace. So it's you really have to be long term. And when it comes to challenges for the farmers, I think it is actually they are prepared to take the challenge when it comes to farming of the future for sure. That is the feeling we have, but they need to be compensated, and we need to find a way, because all this what we need to do that is needed to be more climate neutral, that costs money in different aspects, and we need to be able to create business models and transfer the money back to the farmers so they can invest and so on. But anyway, farming of the future, what have Lantmännen done in here? We actually released a report that you can see in front of you here, what we actually call farming of the future. And we knew already from the beginning that most of the footprint, climatical impact, that is actually within the primary production. And even though we think that we have worked with farming of the future and sustainable production for many years within Lantmännen and in Swedish agriculture, and we are among the most sustainable farming and so on, but there's still a lot to do to be able to come to the climate neutral situation there. So therefore we put together a group of experts and colleagues and experts and scientists that work to really dig into in detail, to start to calculate what is the present stage, where are we today, and what can actually be done in the in short term, in a bit longer, and in really long term, to be able to reach the goal of climate neutrality by 2050. So next slide, please. And there are three important perspectives in the sustainable farming. We talk about internally about the 3 Ps: productivity, planet, and profit. And we see that as Didier said earlier on, it's a combination usually needed, where you have new technology, you need maybe biopesticides, microorganisms, and that part, and maybe together with the crop protection as well. And it's most likely so in combination. When doing that, you would like to increase the productivity, because the better and the higher productivity you have per acre or per hectare, the better and more sustainable the production will be. And then, of course, as we already talked about here concerning climate change and so on, we need also to have robust, I talk about robust varieties, good varieties that can be resistant to the weather conditions, so to say, extreme weather. We see a lot of 2018. We had a drought here in Sweden, I believe. So you had the same situation in France. So and then sometimes you have all the rainfall in a short period of time. So of course, productivity is of real importance. Then, of course, in the planet part, that is where we talk about the biodiversity, the soil fertility, and that we use the plant nutrients in the best way without leakage, and etc., etc. And of course, we have put up as a company where we really have to follow the and work towards the international agreements with following the carbon law and so on. But all this will not happen if we do not have a good profitability in the whole value chain. And we need to be able to invest, and we have to be cost efficient to create these good products and to be able to compete with other products. So that is really, really important. So next, please. And then going maybe a bit more into detail, there are, we detected or put together in the arable production, that is what we have so far looked into more in detail, 11 different important focus areas. And when I listened to Didier here earlier on, we have so many similarities, maybe not with the wine production, we don't have so much wine in Sweden, but we also do invest in precision farming, digitalization, and optimal management, because this is crucial. We need to be able to transfer the present know-how to the farmers in a good way, so they use the latest technologies and so on to increase the productivity. And there we have a couple of different companies within the group working on that as well, in the same way as Invivo has. We do a lot of, we have a collaboration where we have started up together with Yara, the fertilizer company, when it comes to sustainable plant nutrients, for instance. We invest a lot heavily in plant breeding because that is crucial. That is very important to have as robust varieties as possible. Fossil-free farming, I mentioned earlier on, cropping systems, and so on. And the carbon question is still a lot of work to do there to be able to close that gap, so to say. And then, of course, we work with together with the farmers to reduce the nitrogen losses, for instance, to have more green land and use nitrogen sensors, for instance. So you really apply the nitrogen when the plant needs it and the amount needed, and so on, the specific spot on the field. Reduce the leakage, of course, and then biostimulants and biopesticides when it comes to sustainable plant production. We have a specific company for that as well, working on that, because I believe and we believe that this is really one part of the solution, so to say. And then we have to adapt the farming following the climatic change. And then we should not forget the biodiversity, because that is really important as well. So that was the 11 parts here. And when we looked into this, we know already we can, with the present technologies and know-how, we can increase the yields and at the same time reduce the climate impact. We know that. And until 2030, we have seen, when we have looked into winter wheat especially, that we can increase the yields by 38%, and at the same time follow the carbon law curve, where we halve the climate impact by every 10th year. So until 2030, we know we can do that, but it will come with a price. The challenge here is to get this out to practice and to get the farmers and all the ones in the whole value chains to, so to say, have a good profitability. Then we see also that when it comes to following until 2050 to be fully climate neutral, that is a challenge. There we lack still some know-how, and we need to invest more and more into R&D in certain areas. So,
sorry, Peter, just a question from me. The climate neutrality objective for 2050, did you impose this objective to yourself, or is it coming from the government? Or
No, it's our own decision. We can take the next slide.
Because this is a very ambitious target.
It's a very ambitious target, and we have earlier on had environmental targets and climate targets within the group as well for our industrial parts when it comes to logistics, etc., etc. But we actually, or our board of directors, took a decision last year where we really should follow even and including the primary production, because that is actually where we have the largest impact, where we should work towards climate neutrality by 2050, and that means following that half it every 10th year. And that is, of course, we need to do that. Lantmännen, we cannot do that by ourselves. You have to do that together with the society, with partners, etc., etc. But we have done some things already where we work with products that are better than earlier on, so to say. What we call climate and nature, we have launched that. And then we put in a lot of efforts into R&D and so on, of course.
So there's a question from the audience about any quantified objectives for 2025, 2030, etc., in terms of fossil fuel usage per hectare or pesticide use, etc. Do you have these sort of objectives step by step, year after year?
We have a step by step to follow that curve, and until now we are actually following that, and we started to calculate from 2015, I should say.
Okay.
So we take actions all the way, and we see that we have already until 2030 we have the possibilities to do that, but we need extra support to secure that we have that profit part as well with us, because that will be important. But then, of course, beyond the 2030, the trickier it will get. And there we see also that there is more need to collaborate and put more efforts into research. Yep. So next, please. And this is just a slide to show you about our climate and nature. And of course, right now, we have seen that we have been able to, so to say, reduce the climate impact. And so we have taken big steps already and concrete actions for biodiversity and to reduce the climate impact. So we are 30% less compared to 2015. And we plan now for the next step. And inside, what is there then? Yeah, just giving you example that we have bat fertilizers using nitrogen sensors when you are out on the farmer. And now the next step will be fossil-free tractor driving. And we have flowering zones for biodiversity as an example then. So we developed this cultivation program all the time, so to say. And we are doing this in wheat at present, but we will also go to the next crop like rye and would like to take it even further then. So we have a rather large ambition here to lead this development.
Especially in terms of reducing CO2 emissions.
Yes,
Right.
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Next
Time
slide,
is flying. Please. We need to rush.
Yeah, I need. That's why I push a bit. Just giving examples here, what we actually do. We invest, as I said, a lot in plant breeding. We have a digital portal for the farmers. We have advice to service and precision farming. Maybe I should mention this one: chemical-free seed treatment. We invested early, already during the 90s, in a technology where we use hot, humid air to sanitize and kill pathogens, fungal pathogens and bacteria on seeds instead of using chemical pesticides. We do that, and that is as efficient. And now it's the technique is called thermoseed, and we have actually two production facilities in France, and there was one recently decided for Switzerland and so on. So that is one example that I like a lot myself. I told you about the fossil-free mineral fertilizers, and we do also a lot in the feed area, and where we have launched lower climatical impact feed. And then right now we are also looking into the animal production and finding out what is the present impact. So we have the scientific base and the same way of calculating the impact. So we actually compare apples and apples and not apples and pears. So next slide, and that is actually, I think, my last slide here. What would then be needed from our point of view? We need really a collaboration or cooperation throughout the value chain. Even though we are in the whole, more or less the whole value chain, there are still consumers by then that has to be prepared to pay for this type of activities. And it's a challenge to go from the niche to the breadth then. So we have to have clear assessments for that. So cooperation is important. Investments on farm level will be crucial. There will be need to invest in irrigation, drainage, continue investments in precision farming, digitalizations, and so on. But we also have to secure that there will be a payback or a business model so the farmers will be profitable by then, because then they can invest. And then I talked a bit about the policy instruments. We have to have a compensation system in one way or another to secure the agricultural environmental benefits. And then, of course, the last, then we need to invest more into R&D, both from the industry but also from public funding in certain areas, then to secure that we will succeed to do this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Okay, Didier, now this is your turn. How is InVivo envisioning the future? With what kind of new solutions are you developing? And I'm taking the opportunity to ask you one of the questions that you can keep in mind for your presentation. Someone asked in the audience what you think about artificial intelligence. Can it produce good results in terms of recognition, prediction, analysis, etc. in agriculture? Floor is yours.
I will skip a few slides if you like, and just in order to try to because I will add things that Peter has described in a very well manner. So probably the one thing is I can focus on two news. The good one is we can summarize that agriculture, the good news is that agriculture, we have some solutions indeed. Precision farming is one new thing that we can do with crop protection, like biocontrol, etc. And more to come, I can say, because we invested a lot, and the big companies working on that invested a lot, and those are some startups arrived with very good solutions that we try, and we invest not only to create the solutions but also to experiment this solution, because sometimes we have a lot of good solutions. The question is how we can really use them, how the farmer can invest on this, and how the farming can be profitable. That's one thing, but there are a catalog of good solutions and more to come, and we continue to invest in the future. I saw artificial intelligence is one, as we are collecting much more data, so artificial intelligence is for sure something that can help to dig into this data and to find new ways to operate, new ways to connect some different sort of data, etc., etc. So that's one answer. The other answer, there was some questions about the carbon diagnosis, for instance, and how we the things that there are a lot of things that we also don't know completely the new mechanism with new practice. So when we think about carbon and these kind of things, of course we will commit. So for instance, by the end of the year, we will announce new objectives also in terms of gas reduction, etc. But many things are are sometimes not intuitive in the way they work, and we are in science, in techniques when we talk about agriculture. So that's also important that we continue to test, to experiment, and to invest. And that's the good news in a certain way. The bad news is that we also have to convince the consumer to pay for that. That was part of what I like to say now, that indeed, and there is a good news in this bad news, that the consumer is more and more concerned about the environment. I showed you this figure, which is quite interesting, because 15 years ago, as you can see, when buying a food product, the consumer was concerned about the environment. Then he forget about a little bit about environment to only focus on its own individual health. To know if an appetizer is salty and fat or not. Of course, it's salty and fat, it's an appetizer. So now the question for him is more to know about the environment, and the environment is coming to be again the first things that is considered by a consumer. But still the consumer does not pay really to the farmer what it's needed to pay. So we invest also on that, and we also work on this question. Probably you can show, we have a small video to show you. I don't know if we have time for that. Yeah,
we have a video, and we need a few seconds to install it. It's an interesting video, because there's a key question about who pays for this additional value actually that is created with these new technologies. So farmers should not be the only ones who pay, of course. So what about having consumers adding value to the products that they buy on the supermarket shelves, and then how to give this value back to the farmers, getting back across the food chain. I think this is a question that everybody's looking at right now. So is this video working?
Salut, comment tu t'appelles?
Moi, je suis une tomate.
Oui, j'ai vu. D'où tu viens? Tu fais quoi dans la vie?
Moi, je suis une tomate.
Oh, regarde, un client.
Je suis une tomate.
Salut Philippe, j'ai grandi au soleil à la ferme du Moulin, un producteur local passionné qui pratique l'agriculture raisonnée. Ensuite, j'ai fait 34 km pour arriver chez ton primeur qui m'a choisi pour ma variété pleine de saveurs. J'ai été adoptée 26 fois cette semaine dans ton quartier et ton amie Marion m'a donné une super note. Elle te conseille de me manger en salade avec un vinaigre balsamique que tu trouveras chez l'épicier fin juste à côté. Au fait, je suis un fruit, pas un légume. Ah, et je suis une tomate.
Thank you for this great video, very inspiring.
No, the thing was just to focus and to outline the fact that we can do whatever we like if the consumer is not willing to pay for all those kind of things, or not the consumer, but through the retailer, the producer, etc. All the solutions that we'll have will not. Of course, that can be, and I saw some question about that. That can be mandatory, and that can be regulated by law, etc. But the best thing that when the consumer pay that, and when the society, the citizen, etc., is willing to invest. Probably I can just show you one other slide is after this one, just before the last one, an example of things that we try to do when we talk about carbon credit, for instance. Yeah, if you can go. Yeah, after this one. Yes, that's right. No. Okay. No, the idea is that just to showcase the thing is that we know that, for instance, taking BAP is modulation for fertilization. That's a very good solution. It helps to protect a little bit of the biodiversity, but of course to reduce a little bit the fertilization, to protect the yield, but also to increase the capability of the soil to sequester some carbon. So that's a kind of good solution. The cost is not so important, and the saving can be also interesting. But in order to help the farmer to invest on this solution, we try to find new ways to have this financial mechanism. And one is the carbon credit, for instance. The idea is to try to connect the innovation that we can develop with mechanism to finance this innovation. Of course, otherwise it's just a cost for the farmer. Okay, so the idea is to replace this cost and this investment, and to help the farmer to find a way to invest. And that's part of the last slide that you can show is what we try to develop in our 2030 new projects at InVivo. Yeah, probably I have to stop because of the time.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much to both of you. Maybe one more question from the audience: how to define biodiversity when it comes to protect it? Do you have a quick definition, each of you?
Yeah, you want to start?
Yeah, I don't have a definition straight like that. I mean, biodiversity, you really need to secure that you have all the animals and all the insects and flowers, etc., available in the ecosystem.
Yeah. So probably Carol tomorrow will be able to reply to this answer. We have a very interesting project which is called Happy Tech. It's a network of how do you call it, bee farmers, to protect the bees, and also to connect agriculture with bee, and also to develop something like a network of analytics, okay, to see if indeed we are about to protect, or even more to to restore the biodiversity. So we have created some analytics also to try to measure the biodiversity and to monitor the biodiversity all around France, and to connect it's through the bees mostly that we have an idea about the biodiversity. So there are different spectrum in this topic. One thing is to be very concrete, and this kind of initiative can reply to the question probably.
Thank you very much to both of you. So what I take back from this great discussion, very dynamic, and thank you to the audience for all your questions as well. What I can remember as key ideas is really this role of this combination of technologies and innovative tools to address this big challenge of climate change, but also of transition in farming in order to address changing consumer demands. In fact, how to come from agriculture that is driven by production to agriculture farming that is driven by consumption and by the market. So that production practices and technologies really address the needs of the consumer. And Didier, as you said, and as you showed in this great video, one of the keys to embark consumers with these innovations is how to wrap them, how to market them, how to explain and use words that are understandable and for consumers. So I understand collaboration is key, combination of technologies, long-term perspectives are important, step-by-step, plant breeding, seed treatment, and of course the digitalization of agriculture is in the center of all that. If I just take one of the numerous things that you said, and return on investment, of course, is key for farmers. So thank you very much to everyone. Like 30 seconds to announce tomorrow's event. There's a second conference in this first session of In Vivo Quest, and it's the same time, it's on the same digital platform, so please come back tomorrow. You're still 16 people connected, so we lost a number, but these 16 will come back tomorrow, I'm sure. The title of tomorrow's discussion is how giving access to testing fields will be the key to build the farms of tomorrow. So we'll have a very nice and dynamic, I'm sure, roundtable discussion with 4 different speakers. Carole Roca, we mentioned her name earlier. She is in charge of Ferm Leader in Vivo. We'll have 2 startups present, Telaqua and Fauna Photonics, and we will have McCain Foods as this large private group, and they will all discuss the necessity to test innovations in the fields so that they meet a market. So thank you very much for your attention, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.